Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins Collections, Coin Lovers. Are you ready for a deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins? Today, we're going to explore a coin that might just surprise you with its potential value, the 1967 Roosevelt dime. At first glance, this may seem like just another dime, a common coin you can find in your pocket or jar of spare change. But what if I told you this tiny dime could be worth thousands of dollars? You heard me right. The 1967 Roosevelt dime, despite being a modern coin, could have some serious value hidden inside. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple in U.S. currency since 1946. It was designed by John R. Cinnock to honor the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was a president beloved for his leadership during tough times like the Great Depression and World War II. The dime features Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse, and on the reverse, there's an olive branch, symbolizing peace, and a torch, representing liberty. This design has remained largely unchanged for decades, and the 1967 version is part of that long legacy. But why is the 1967 Roosevelt dime standing out today in the world of coin collectors? It's not just because it's a historic piece of currency. There's more to the story here. While millions of these dimes were produced in 1967, most of them have been heavily circulated over the years, showing signs of wear and tear. As you know, the more a coin is handled, the more its value decreases. But here's the twist: a few of these 1967 dimes are rare treasures that could fetch a substantial amount of money. Let's start by talking about the condition of the coin. The 1967 Roosevelt dime was minted in copper nickel, not the silver that was used for dimes prior to 1965. So, most of these dimes look pretty similar when they've been in circulation for decades. But what if you have one that's perfectly preserved, one that looks as if it was just struck yesterday? That's where the value comes in. Coins in mint or uncirculated condition are much rarer than those that have been tossed around in wallets and pocket change jars. A 1967 Roosevelt dime that has stayed in pristine condition is worth far more than just its face value, but that's not all. The real excitement for collectors comes from minting errors. In the world of coin collecting, minting errors are highly coveted because they're the rarest of the rare. The 1967 Roosevelt dime is no exception. There are a few specific errors that can turn this dime from a 10-cent piece into a goldmine. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once by the die, causing some of the design elements, like the date or the text, to appear doubled. If you find a 1967 Roosevelt dime with a doubled date or a doubled inscription, this could significantly increase the coin's value. A double die error is a collector's dream because it's unique, and only a small percentage of the total coins ever have this type of error. If you're lucky enough to stumble across one of these, you're in for a real treat. Another common error to look for on the 1967 Roosevelt dime is a repunched mint mark. This happens when the mint mark, which tells you where the coin was minted, for example, D for Denver or S for San Francisco, is struck more than once. The result? A blurry or doubled mint mark, making the coin stand out. Minting errors like this are rare, and coin collectors go wild over them because they're not something you can find every day. But there's more. A subtle change in metal composition also made its way into the 1967 Roosevelt dime. After 1964, the U.S. Mint started producing dimes with a copper-nickel clad composition, moving away from the silver content in pre-1965 dimes. This meant that some of the dimes produced during this period, like the 1967 ones, were made from a new material. These coins might not have any obvious errors, but collectors do place a premium on the transitional years when this switch was happening. So, now that we've explored all the different factors that could affect the value of the 1967 Roosevelt dime, condition, minting errors, and metal composition, you're probably wondering just how much this coin could be worth. Let me tell you, the 1967 Roosevelt dime is not your average dime. If you manage to find one that's in uncirculated condition or features a minting error like a double die or repunched mint mark, the value could skyrocket. Are you sitting down? A rare, well-preserved 1967 Roosevelt dime with an error could be worth up to $39,000. Yes, you heard me right, $39,000 for a dime. It's amazing to think that a coin worth only 10 cents when it was first minted could have grown in value so much over the years. But that's the magic of coin collecting. A little bit of rarity, a little bit of history, and the right set of circumstances can turn a seemingly ordinary coin into a small fortune. So, if you've got a jar of old coins, take a moment to go through them. Look for that 1967 Roosevelt dime. Inspect it closely. Is it in great condition? Does it have any minting errors? You could be holding a treasure in your hand that's worth far more than you ever expected. Today, we're about to explore the fascinating world of the 1991 Roosevelt dime, a coin that many of you might have passed over in your spare change, but could be worth far more than its face value. So grab your magnifying glass and get ready, because we're diving into what makes the 1991 Roosevelt dime a hidden gem in the world of numismatics. Now, you might be wondering, what makes a 1991 Roosevelt dime so special? After all, it's just a dime, right? Well, you'd be surprised. The Roosevelt dime, which has been in circulation since 1946, is a symbol of U.S. currency, honoring the legacy of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Designed by John R. Sinnock, the coin features Roosevelt's profile on the front, with a torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. Simple, classic, and iconic. But the 1991 version holds something a bit more unique that could make it incredibly valuable to the right collector. First off, let's talk about the production of the 1991 Roosevelt dime. This coin was part of the regular yearly minting of dimes, but, like many coins from this era, it was widely circulated and used in daily transactions. However, it is the rare condition of this coin that sets it apart from the rest. Most 1991 dimes you'll find today are worn, scratched, or tarnished from years of handling and spending. But what happens if you come across one in near-perfect condition? Well, that's where the magic happens. That if you have a 1991 Roosevelt dime that's been carefully preserved, untouched by time and wear, you could have something quite valuable in your hands. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition are a collector's dream. For most coins, this means that there are no signs of handling, no scratches, and no discoloration. The details of the design are still sharp, and the coin looks like it just came from the mint. These well-preserved examples are much rarer than their worn counterparts and can command significantly higher prices in the market. The better the condition of the coin, the higher its value. This is a golden rule in coin collecting, and it's no different with the 1991 Roosevelt dime, but hold on, there's more. It's not just the condition that can make the 1991 Roosevelt dime valuable. In the world of coin collecting, errors are a huge deal. Minting errors are what make certain coins incredibly special and sought after. And when it comes to the 1991 Roosevelt dime, there are a few errors that could send its value soaring. One of the most exciting errors to look for is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck multiple times by the die, resulting in a doubling of the design elements. For the 1991 Roosevelt dime, this could mean a doubled date, a doubled inscription, or even a doubled portrait of Roosevelt himself. A double die error is incredibly rare, and it makes the coin unique. Collectors go crazy for these types of coins because of their rarity, and they're willing to pay top dollar to get their hands on one. Another potential error to look for is a repunched mint mark. This happens when the mint mark, which indicates where the coin was minted, is struck more than once. This results in a blurry or doubled mint mark, which can make the coin stand out from the rest. If you find a 1991 Roosevelt dime with this error, you found something that collectors would eagerly snap up. But even beyond errors, there's something else about the 1991 Roosevelt dime that makes it more intriguing to collectors. In 1991, the U.S. Mint was still using the same composition of copper-nickel clad for its dimes that it had been using since 1965. This composition gives the coin a unique color and feel compared to earlier silver dimes. Over the years, some collectors have begun to focus on the differences in these later-era dimes, and as a result, certain years, like 1991, have become more desirable as part of a complete collection of Roosevelt dimes. So, let's talk about the big question. How much could a 1991 Roosevelt dime really be worth? Most of the dimes you'll encounter from this year are worth about 10 cents, just like they were when they were first minted. However, if you manage to find one in exceptional condition, or if you happen to discover one with a rare minting error, the value could be significantly higher. A pristine, uncirculated 1991 Roosevelt dime could easily fetch hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars, depending on its condition and rarity. And if you're lucky enough to find a rare minting error, you could be holding a coin worth an impressive $35,000. Yes, you heard that right, $35,000 for a single dime. It's incredible how much these small coins can be worth when you've got the right combination of rarity, condition, and error. So, what does this mean for you as a coin collector? If you happen to come across a 1991 Roosevelt dime, don't just toss it back into your change jar. Take a closer look. Is it in great condition? Could it have a minting error? If you're unsure, it might be worth having it professionally graded by a coin expert to get an accurate valuation. You never know, you could be sitting on a small fortune just waiting to be discovered. Today, we're going to take a closer look at a fascinating piece of U.S. history that might be hiding in your collection or even in your spare change, the 1974 Roosevelt dime. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a dime, right? But trust me, there's more to this coin than meets the eye, and it could be worth far more than its face value. When you think of U.S. coins, the Roosevelt dime is probably one of the first coins that comes to mind. Introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his death, this dime is a staple of American currency. The coin's obverse features Roosevelt's profile, while the reverse shows a torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. But today, we're focusing specifically on the 1974 version of this dime, which is where things get interesting. The 1974 Roosevelt dime, like most of the other dimes produced in the 70s, was struck with the same copper-nickel-clad composition that the U.S. Mint used after silver was removed from the dimes in 1965. While this was a regular minting year for the Roosevelt dime, it's precisely this ordinary status that makes it intriguing to collectors. You see, although millions of these dimes were produced, certain rare characteristics and errors can make the 1974 Roosevelt dime stand out, turning it from just another dime into a potential goldmine. The first thing to consider with any coin, especially one that could be worth more than its face value, is its condition. As you probably know, the value of a coin can be drastically affected by its state of preservation. A coin that has been in heavy circulation, with visible scratches, dents, or discoloration, will not fetch much on the market. However, a 1974 Roosevelt dime in mint condition, one that has barely been touched or circulated, is where the real value lies. Coins that have been carefully preserved and stored are incredibly valuable, as they are so much rarer than those that have been tossed around in pockets and spent over the years, but condition is just the beginning. What really excites collectors and numismatists are minting errors, those unique, unexpected characteristics that make a coin one of a kind. When it comes to the 1974 Roosevelt dime, there are several errors that can make it truly stand out and increase its value significantly. Let's break down some of the key errors to watch for. One of the most common and highly sought-after errors is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once by the die, creating a doubling effect on the design. For the 1974 Roosevelt dime, a double die error could appear on the date, the inscriptions, or even the features of Roosevelt's portrait. A double date or a double inscription is a red flag to collectors. These coins are rare, and having a coin with a visible error like this can drive its price up substantially. A 1974 Roosevelt dime with a noticeable double die could be worth a small fortune depending on how dramatic the error is. Another minting mistake that can occur is a repunched mint mark. The mint mark on coins tells us where they were produced. For example, D on a coin means it was minted in Denver, and an S indicates San Francisco. If the mint mark was struck more than once, you might see a blurry or double mint mark. These types of errors are incredibly rare and can greatly increase the coin's value. especially if it's the only one known to exist with that particular mistake. So, keep your eyes peeled for these errors, because finding a repunched mint mark on a 1974 Roosevelt dime could be a game-changer for your collection. Now, you might be wondering, just how much could a 1974 Roosevelt dime be worth? Well, it really depends on the condition of the coin and whether it contains any errors, but here's the exciting part: if you manage to find a 1974 Roosevelt dime in near-perfect, uncirculated condition, or if you stumble upon a coin with a rare minting error, it could be worth up to an astonishing $37,500. Yes, that's right, $37,500 for a single dime. Isn't it amazing how something as small as a dime, which may seem like just pocket change, can turn into such a valuable treasure? It's the rarity, the condition, and the possibility of minting errors that make the 1974 Roosevelt dime so exciting for collectors. So, what does this mean for you as a coin collector or hobbyist? If you've got a stash of dimes from the 1970s, or if you come across a 1974 Roosevelt dime while sorting through your change, take a moment to really inspect it. Look for signs of wear and tear, check the mint mark, and pay close attention to any possible errors like a double die or a repunched mint mark. If you're lucky enough to find one of these rare, error-filled dimes in excellent condition, you could have a hidden treasure on your hands. That's all for today's video, folks. If you found this dive into the world of the 1974 Roosevelt dime interesting, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more rare coin content, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Remember, the next coin you pick up might just be the one that's worth a fortune. Happy hunting, and see you next time.